With 120 minor league teams to follow, it's sometimes really easy to lose track of Major League Baseball as a whole and what's going on. So I sat down with Sully from LockedOn MLB to talk all things prospects debuting in the majors and then just wherever the conversation took us. Check it out.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Lindsey Crosby, Locked On MLB Prospects. He's Sully, Locked On MLB. Thank you for being here. How are you?
And we're crossing over. We're going to John Edwards this and cross on over and talk about, we are crossing over to the future because some people want to talk about the stars of today. We're talking about the stars of tomorrow, today. So let's time machine this and realize that we are living in a world where the top prospects are actually, it's a novel concept in 2022.
Bring up the good players.
Yeah, if you're ready to play in the major leagues, why don't you play in the major leagues? What do you think, huh?
Here's a little bit of trivia for you, okay? So the top 5 prospects in baseball this year were all high upside young hitters. Mm-hmm. The last time you had 5 high upside young hitters as prospects 1 through 5, can you guess the year? I'll start naming players if you get the year wrong.
Let's see. Oh, you know what? I'll just say 2011.
Okay, a little farther back. Here we go. Two names: Jeffrey Hammonds, Alex Gonzalez, the least accomplished of the 5.
So this must have been. I'm going to guess Jeffrey Hammonds. Gosh, is that going to be like 97?
A little bit earlier, Cliff Floyd, Carlos Delgado, also in this year.
Oh, so this must have been going into 1994.
1994. The 5th guy was Chipper Jones. It's the only other time you've had 5 top prospects all be young, like high upside young hitters. Wow. And I think we would have gotten all 5 of them were it not for injury. So Julio Rodriguez, obviously playing for the Mariners. Bobby Witt made it to Kansas City. Spencer Torkelson's manning a corner in Detroit. Riley Green fractured his foot. He was going to make the team in the outfield in Detroit. And Adley Rutschman had the triceps injury. But I think if not for that, he was going to make the team. So you had 10 top prospects, not counting those last 2 guys, still get called up.
By the way, for those of you who don't remember, 1994 was the first year that they expanded the playoffs and had the divisions into the Central, added the Central Division and a wild card, but that was also the year that we had the World Series taken away because of a players' strike. I distinctly remember the Blue Jays went into 1994 as the 2-time defending World Series champion, and Carlos Delgado came out of the gate. He hit 2 or 3 home runs in one of his first games, and one of my best friends in college at the time was a diehard Blue Jay fan, born and raised in Toronto. And he was like, I can't believe it. We're going to be the 3-time world champion.
Oh,
Carlos
it's his
Delgado.
fault. It's his fault.
Pretty much. But Delgado, man, he timed his Blue Jays run so poorly that he arrived just as the party ended. But yeah, that was people remember that there was a race with Matt Williams and Griffey, who was going to pass Roger Maris. Tony Gwynn was chasing down 400, but we had a slew of wonderful young players who played that year, and it was if I remember correctly, Chipper Jones was injured that year, though.
I think he got hurt during the year. Yeah. But it's just funny to me because before we turn the mics on, you were talking about they used to call you a baseball encyclopedia. And I'm like, well, there you go. I gave you a year and you told me all about the award winners that year.
I'm going to baseballreference.com, the Saving Grace website, the history of the planet Earth. And here's some of the players in the American League who got Rookie of the Year votes, included Manny Ramirez, Rusty Greer, Jeffrey Hammonds, Jim Edmonds, but none of them won Rookie of the Year. The Rookie of the Year went to Bob the Hammer Hamlin
Wow.
Yep.
I forgot about Bob Hamlin winning that.
Bob Hamlin. Yep. The National League Rookie of the Year was Raul Mondesi. And some of the other names on that list would include Ryan Klesko, who obviously had a wonderful career, Steve Traxel, who had a nice career, Cliff Floyd, Bobby Jones, who wound up having a couple of solid years with the Mets. Mm-hmm. But number 2 on the Rookie of the Year vote in the National League, ladies and gentlemen, John Hudek.
John Hudek. So, like, this makes me think about something that you said in there when you talked about in 94, the postseason was expanded and you saw all of these prospects come up. And there's a parallel there to this year because this year the postseason's been expanded from 10 to 12 teams. So you've increased the field by 20%. And then you changed that first round of wildcard matchups from the one and done to a best of 3. And so part of me wonders how many, like seeing all these, like these 10 prospects in the top 100 come up, how much of that was because teams knew that the marginal value that prospect could add could push them into a playoff spot?
I think that especially when you saw how a one win here or there would have meant the Blue Jays and the Mariners in the playoffs last year, that maybe the idea of having the best team always on the field isn't such a bad problem to have. The other thing that I would definitely point out is that you're starting to see teams see that if a star is a star and they see they're a star, they're going to try to buy out their prime. You saw it happen with Wander Franco. You saw it happen with Fernando Tatis Jr. And that's with the pod. Who was that? What did you just say?
Ronald Acuna.
Ronald Acuna. Yes, it's another example. Thank you. And you're seeing that, and you saw that with Cabrian Hayes. And you saw that there's a sense of, hey, we think you're going to be a star. We're just going to buy out your prime. And that's not the Yankees, Red Sox, and Dodgers doing that. That's the Pirates. That's the Rays. That's San Diego doing that. And so you may see that teams are saying, look, if they're going to be a star, we're not going to try to, lowball them for their first 4 or 5 years till they hit arbitration. We're just going to pay them more now, and it may save us later. But for them, it's a good gamble because they could get injured. They could be Hudek and have just the one good year. They could be Bob the Hammer Hamlin. So they're both sides are taking a chance. But if the whole idea is we're going to try to squeeze out as many years before they become arbitration eligible, maybe that's no longer a factor. I mean, let's see if you're a star. If you are, we'll pay you.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things there too is if a guy finishes first or second in Rookie of the Year voting, no matter when you call them up, they automatically get a year of service time as well. But if they accrued a year of service time when the voting happens and they're in that top, you can get draft pick compensation. So they've tried to say, if you're an obvious star, like you have every incentive to go ahead, bring that player up to start the season. They can help you make the playoffs. They're going to get service time either way, but you can get a draft pick for having them up. So I think it works out kind of well, but part of me wonders if losing the 2020 season and having some guys get delayed on their debuts, if it gives us the impression that all of the service time manipulation stuff was successful, when in reality you have situations like O'Neal Cruz, you have Prado and Melendez with the Royals. They're all at AAA. These guys could be at the MLB level right now. And so, like, how much of it is what MLB did actually worked, and how much of it is just coincidence that a bunch of guys were ready this year?
I think the combination. I mean, that year where we lost minor league baseball for a year, I think that affected, I think you're going to see that really affected how people are going to be handling some of these prospects. Like, look, we lost a year. Let's get you up here. Let's get this thing going, as opposed to, just sort of, playing the wishy-washy game. Yeah. I mean, we saw last year, like the Rays, Randy Arozarena won the Rookie of the Year, and it was his third postseason with 2 different teams. But the Rays had 3 of the top 8 of the Rookie of the Year, but with McClanahan, Franco, and Arozarena. You saw that there were teams that saw, hey, we might as well we have these assets sitting in our farm system right now, and they're gonna be more valuable instead of dying on the vine in Syracuse. They're maybe more valuable in our in our major league roster. I think you're going to see a team like the Orioles, who had success calling up Mountcastle last year, looking at some of these super great prospects they have in their farm system, say like, let's get them up there. Let's get their butterflies out. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, and the plan was to have Rutschman up when the season started, if not for the triceps injury. But you talked about assets. I want to ask you real quick. What do you do when it's a gift giving occasion, a holiday, like a Mother's Day, perhaps? What is your go-to move?
Look, at a lot of times I'll try to get something functional, because my mother has always loved more functional, like a gift that she will use, and every time she uses it, she'll think of me. But man, sometimes you got to go with something really special, and I like to get her jewelry. I'm a big jewelry guy. So sometimes, my mom, and I hope my mom's not listening to this, but I'd like to get her some bling.
If we know anything about Sully, it's that he's a baseball encyclopedia and a big jewelry guy. And so I want to tell you about BlueNile.com. Like, if you're looking for fine jewelry, but you're having trouble choosing what you get, BlueNile.com has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. Available via phone.
Wait, so you're trying to tell me I'm up? I'm up. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm tossing and turning, and I said I want to get a solid piece of bling from my ma, and you're telling me that I don't have to wait for the stores to open. I can call Blue Nile right then and there.
You can call Blue Nile and navigate thousands of fine jewelry options at every single price point. Right there, middle of the night, you can hop on the phone with a jewelry expert to walk you through whether it's designing a custom piece, going through what they have, a birthstone pendant, diamond earrings, tennis bracelets, even engagement rings, Sully.
Well, seeing it's my mom, I'm probably going to avoid that last one, but it sounds like they've got a great bunch of variety there. And man, this sounds like these prices can't be beat.
This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On MLB listeners get $50 off of $500. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use code Locked On. It's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured. It ships free. And in case you live with your mother still, it arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. So you can shop stress-free and find your forever piece at BlueNile.com.
I got to tell you, my biggest problem with jewelry is when they show up in that wooden crate and stenciled on the side jewelry. And I'll tell you, it just takes the surprise out of everything. And so that's why I'm going to do my shopping at BlueNile.com. Now, in talking about jewelry, some of these players are going to be looking to be fitted for rings. Am I right? Am I right, folks?
You are right. The Atlanta Braves rings. The Braves got their rings last week. Did you see these things?
Yeah.
Have you talked about it on your show yet?
I have not. I couldn't tell if they were rings or they were teapots, because they opened up.
Yes,
they had a little secret compartment for, I guess, snuff. I mean,
they had a custom engraving on the inside of the lid.
Yeah,
and then there's LED lights inside over a miniature stadium, and there's 11 rubies in the stands of the stadium representing the 11 World Series home runs the Braves hit. The only question I have is the Jorge Soler home run in Houston still has not come down, so I don't know where you put that ruby. Did they just give you a loose one with the ring? How does that work?
Well, I can also tell you that if you want to get that ring, go to BlueNile.com.
Code Locked On for 50% off of $500.
50% off for your World Series ring. I mean, my one experience with a championship ring came from when I was I used to be a TV producer, and I worked on a bunch of shows, including I worked on a talk show called The Bonnie Hunt Show, which was probably my favorite job. I loved working with Bonnie Hunt, and it was a lot of fun working on that show. And one of the things that I produced was an interview segment with Michael Strahan. And I don't really have an NFL team. The closest thing I have to an NFL team, even though I'm a native New Englander, are the New York Giants, because when I lived in New York, I lived with my cousin for a while, who was a season ticket holder for the Giants. I never really cared for the NFL, but I would go to Giants games with him, and that was a lot of fun. And so when the Giants won the Super Bowl, ironically against the New England Patriots, I was actually thrilled for the Giants.
Yeah.
And I told him that, even though I'm a native New Englander, Red Sox fan, Celtic fan, I was rooting against the Patriots. And he brought the Super Bowl ring that he had to the Body Hum show.
Of course he did.
And I tried it on, and it looked like I was Iron Man. Basically, it was so big. And I asked him, how often do you wear it? He said, never. I never said. I sometimes forget I have it. He said he keeps it in a case. The case is somewhere like in his living room or his bedroom. People ask to see it, he takes it. People want to see it, they take it out. But he said, I don't walk around. I said, how do you walk around with this thing on your finger? And it was very gaudy.
Mm-hmm. It has to be.
But you would think they would want to have something that you would want to always, wear. But there's, unless you're a Green Lantern, you are never going to wear a ring that ostentatious. In fact, if the A's ever win the World Series, I want to have green rings, and then I want to give them also a lantern that they could go charge it up there in darkest day.
I mean, it is 150 diamonds to make the A. It is 755 total diamonds on it after 744. There is 18.71 carats of white gold because the franchise was it's so over the top. And I'm almost at the point where I'm like, have we jumped the shark on this whole thing?
Meanwhile, some minor leaguer in Gwinnett is thinking, can I have some more meal money, please? I can't afford a Subway sandwich, but no, please.
I have to share this furnished room with somebody else.
I'm living like the film Nomadland in a van right now, but please, put LED lights inside the ring.
When if the batteries go out, do you have to send it back to get changed? How does that? They have to take it apart and do a new one.
Thing. That's
you
what
just
you
put it back in. So I'm glad you mentioned the housing situation, because something new this year that we haven't seen yet is Major League Baseball teams are required to provide housing for minor leaguers.
Yeah.
And so to me, I look at they did this, they doubled their pay. It feels like, and they doubled their pay to still poverty wages. Let's not get this wrong. It's still poverty. But it almost feels like Major League Baseball is terrified that minor league baseball players are going to get their stuff together and unionize or something.
Yes.
I'm glad to see it. Our friends, advocates for minor leaguers, have talked all about this, but what needs to be done to make things better in general for minor leaguers?
Look at the first things first. I said this on the podcast beforehand. In terms of a living situation, think about how if you're trying to produce young players to move up through your system, and you remove the anxiety of where the hell am I going to sleep? Mm-hmm. Where the hell am I going to rest my head? Most of these kids are kids. You don't have to get them a luxurious townhouse. I mean, if you get them a motel room that has a bed, a working toilet and shower, and a Wi-Fi connection, and even bunk them 2 at a time, and make sure this motel has a continental breakfast in the front lobby. Mm-hmm. I mean, how much does that cost a night in a town like Spokane?
When you're buying them in a group package or something.
In a group package of which you put a big thing on the in the stadium, sponsored by, the Bates Motel right down the street. and let's say each team gets a block of 50 rooms. Okay. Yeah. For the players and for the visiting team, when they come in, here's your motel. You stay in your motel. Yeah. There you go. How much is that? I mean, how much of that would that really cost a team? I mean, just right there, and then having a bus take them from the motel to the stadium. So, how am I going to get? No, you wake up in there, you get showered, shaved. Again, I'm not talking about the Ritz. I'm not even talking about the Sheraton. Right. I'm talking about a Motel 6, which for these minor leaguers would probably be just fine. And and to remove that anxiety from them and have them focus on being a Major League Baseball player or trying to become a Major League Baseball player. Wouldn't that just show just the basic courtesy? When they get to the freaking stadium, work out a deal with some local restaurant that you know what, you get a spread. I get it. Everyone gets a meal. You get a place a place to lay down your head and a meal. Okay. I'm not talking about extravagances.
Right.
I'm not talking about luxury. That it's still minor league baseball, and that most of these people aren't going to get above single A ball. And when you get bumped from the team, you got to skedaddle from the motel. But it's not like you have to break a lease. It's not like you have to, I mean, there you go. You pack up your hotel room and scram.
For every team and franchise being worth billions of dollars, like I don't understand why, as a competitive advantage, nobody's just gone and said, "Hey, we're gonna provide, like we're gonna have a chef. Each minor league affiliate has a chef, and this person's they're gonna buy groceries. They're gonna have nutrition set out for everybody every day, pregame, postgame. We're going to give you the place to stay. We're going to give you a place to train in the off season. If you want, you can stay at our spring training complex. You can live there for free. We'll feed you. You can work out in our facilities." I mean, because right now they don't get paid in the off season. Like they just got their first paychecks like last week. It's the first paychecks they've gotten since last September. They didn't get paid for spring training either. But it's like, why wouldn't you just say, "Hey, here's a place to stay in the off season. Here's access to our facilities to train. The coaches are there. Here's food to eat every day so you can put on the weight we need you to put on so you can tap into that power." Like, I don't understand why teams haven't just said, "Oh, well, the cost of that is minus 1 year of this 37-year-old veteran that sits on the bench and gets 4 pinch hits a week."
I mean, I just quickly calculated. Let's say a motel room is like about $80 a night. Okay. And let's say you get a bulk deal where you get 50 rooms, for your players and for the visiting players and everything. So that's 50 rooms. Let's say it's 200 nights you've blocked out that. Okay. And you do that for 5 minor league affiliates. That's about $4 million. For $4 million, you wouldn't think twice of signing a player for $4 million and cutting them. Okay. Mm-hmm. For 4 million clams, you can have, okay, let's say, and also assume that you could work out deals. You can work out advertising deal, that things are done in exchange for this or that. Okay. But let's just say 4 million. Heck, let's up it to 6 million. Let's make it like a bionic. That used to get you a bionic man. But now, like, let's say you spend $6 million, and for $6 million, you make sure that every single minor leaguer you have has a place to stay, can focus on being a minor leaguer instead of focus on all this other nonsense. And that seems like such a pittance. Okay. I'm not talking about treating them like major leaguers. Okay. I understand there is it's the whole great scene in Bull Durham, my favorite baseball film of all time, where they're talking about how, the difference between the minor leagues and the major leagues. He said, you have batting practice with white balls. People carry your bags. There's a spread for you when you get to the stadium. I get those creature comforts are there, but it's just basic decency. And you're right. The amount, like, let's say even like the members, like your top, it doesn't have to be every single player, but like all the players you have under contract, and especially the ones you have a sense of, hey, you're someone we really have an eye on.
You're in our top 30.
Yeah. Well, and you train in either Arizona or in Florida, and you say, hey, you can live year round in this hotel room in Arizona. This will be your address. You get to train here. Okay. Now, if we cut you, bye-bye.
Yeah, but like how often do you cut a top prospect anyway?
You don't. So I mean, this is the amount of money that it would take. You work out one extra deal with Apple TV. Maybe lose one of the LED lights in your ring I don't know. But
Or
it seems like such a, one of the things that may drive someone away from baseball and towards another sport is the sense of, well, look, I don't want to live in poverty for a couple of years for the outside chance. Now, of course, if you choose the NFL over Major League Baseball, your career is probably going to be over in 3 years. The same thing with the NBA. But at least you have a closer shot of making it. At least you're going to camp with the team.
You get that somewhat more significant major league money in year one if you make the team in year one. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of playing, I'm going to be with the Hickory Crawdads. I'm going to be, I'll turn out with the Patriots, and at least a year one, I'm in their training camp saying hello to Bill Belichick.
Speaking of crawdads and eating things, you know what I love to eat besides crawdads?
Well, what would that be?
Built Bars.
Oh yeah, Built Bars are great. Built Bars are great.
100% real chocolate. It's better than a candy bar. Much better for you. You should be giving them to your players at your spring training complexes.
Yeah. Well, think about that. You get a motel room and a big box of Built Bars. You're trying to tell me that you couldn't lose.
I mean, it is. Think about it. It's 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 net carbs, and the flavors, Sully, are great. There's a blueberry muffin. That's a new one. Have you seen that?
No. In fact, I thought you just lied to me. Why would you lie to me? Why would you, Lindsay? Why would you deliberately say something that was so false?
We got the variety pack in just the other day. There's a blueberry muffin. I'll tell you, not my absolute favorite, but it's pretty good.
What is your absolute favorite? You're going to be talking smack.
Peanut butter brownie.
That's good.
No hesitation. Peanut butter brownie.
I like raspberry. Stacy Gotsulias of LockedOn Yankees can't stop talking about mint brownie. Yeah, friend of the show. She talked about my love of the raspberry. I'm going to talk about her love of the mint brownie. And you know what? I love mint. I love brownie. I love Built Bars. So don't think that's not high on my list.
Yeah, and I mean, so tons of flavors. Like we've said, there's the recurring flavors. There's special occasion flavors. They had a shamrock one for St. Patrick's Day.
My people.
Yeah, see? Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. You can get 15% off your order. Promo code LOCKED15 at built.com.
By the way, do you see what hat I wore at the Jackie Robinson Day the other day?
That was an amazing show that you did from Dodger Stadium. That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
I was very proud of that show. This is the hat that I wore. Okay, it's a P. You know what that P stands for? Show what it stands for. The Portland Diamond Project. It's a group that wants to bring Major League Baseball to one of my favorite cities in the country, and that is Portland, Oregon. And Portland has been wanting to get a Major League team for a while. In fact, Stadium Page, which is one of my favorite rabbit holes to fall down in all of the interwebs, they have a bunch of designs for stadiums that were never built, including a dome in Portland, Oregon, that was designed to lure an NFL team and a Major League Baseball team. And also several of the never realized attempts to bring either an expansion team or the Montreal Expos to move to the Pacific Northwest. I, for one, think, there's rumors that the A's are thinking about moving to Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas would be an absolute disaster to put a Major League Baseball team. Way too hot in the summer. Even if it was a dome, it's the same problem you have in Miami, where there are so many people transplanted from other cities that the idea of them embracing a team as their own, you have a hard time doing that. You do have people in Portland where there is that deeply rooted, identity with the city fan base that you have that I think they'd be able to tap into. I think if the A's have to move, I don't want them to. I would love it if they moved to Portland. If not Portland, Nashville. I think those are the two places where I think they would work out very well. Yeah. It's smelling more and more like Las Vegas, which I just think is going to be a catastrophe. But I am in full support of the Portland Diamond Project, whether it's the A's, the Rays, or an expansion team. Baseball is going to expand at one point. You get to 32. And I'm all for that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think baseball should realign into 4 divisions. And if you have 32 teams, you have 8 teams in each division. You create a more natural rival to the Seattle Mariners instead of having the Mariners exist in Siberia all by themselves. There's you have a clear rivalry in the Northwest, and I also think that I've said this before. I'm not a fan of the universal DH. I didn't want there to be universal DH, but if there has to be a universal DH, and it looks like there is one. Then there's no difference between the American League and National League anymore. So why have it? Why not just
move things?
Why not?
It's tradition.
Embrace embrace the natural rivals that you can have, and let's go for it. And
like,
so
geographically, it's very easy. Like if you have Seattle and Portland, you pair them with like an Oakland and the Angels. There's like a 4-team thing. You can do more if you want, obviously, with the Giants and the Dodgers,
Padres
and Diamondbacks. There's your 8 right there, all on the West Coast. You can do like the South. You've got you've got Miami, you've got the Rays, the Astros, the Rangers, the Braves, that Nashville team. Go ahead, put in the Cardinals and the Royals in there. Boom. 8,
or maybe you put Baltimore in there, and you have the North be Boston, New York, both New York teams. Philadelphia, Toronto,
Washington.
Okay, maybe a Baltimore, maybe a Pittsburgh there. I mean, we got time to work it out.
Cincinnati's right there by Kentucky. That's close enough.
Yeah, and then you could have both Chicago teams, Cleveland, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Kansas City, Denver. Detroit. I mean, there's a lot of you can create new rivalries and fun rivalries. And we saw a little bit of that in the COVID season when everything was regional. You had the central, all the central teams played each other, all the East teams played each other, and all the West teams played each other. And there was a lot of things about the COVID year that were really, really weird. But with that being said, it was the element of the natural geographical rivalries made it kind of fun. And so I liked the quirk of the National League where the pitchers bat and the American League where the pitchers didn't bat. But again, I can't scream at the tides. And, that change was made. And if we're going to do it, let's do it. And I think that and of course, I've had some people think that I'm against it. I've been accused of being a stick in the mud traditionalist because I wanted to have pitchers bat, and I also don't like ghost runner on second base in extra innings because I like
the Manfred man.
Yeah, I like wins to be earned, but I'm actually for some very radical things in baseball. The realignment is certainly one. I'm for what they're doing with the playoffs. I mean, I don't want to expand it too much, but I'm also for reducing the number of games. I'm fine with a 140 game schedule, especially if we're going to increase the number of playoff games. Then let's reduce the number of games and do our best to have.
So it's not November when we're finishing.
Well, I think my radical suggestion was to have when there was just a wild card game, to have that played on Labor Day. That's the end of the baseball season is Labor Day.
There you go.
And then because most people, I mean, you and I are different because we're both walking encyclopedias according to the copy that other people have to read. But most people stop paying attention to Major League Baseball around Labor Day.
Yeah.
Around the time the football season begins. Unless your team's in the postseason. If the team is in the postseason, like here, the Dodgers were in the postseason. When it's up in the Bay Area, people are going bananas when the Giants are in there. But when your team's not in, the Braves have had some success recently, but and I'm sure people are going bananas there for that. But when they're not in it, I'm a unicorn. I'll watch the World Series if it's Marlins Indians. But the fact of the matter is, I'm rare that I enjoy it now on the national. For most people, it's strictly a local interest. And boy, oh boy, did I see that head on when I was up in the Bay Area. And every other year, the Giants were in the World Series, and it was Mardi Gras. And every other year, the Giants didn't make the playoffs, and there was complete and total indifference to Major League Baseball playoffs. And so if most of them are going to stop paying attention around then why have your most exciting month of the season played in front of indifferent fans? There's no big sporting event in August. Have that be the time when the playoff push is on. And if your team is in it, great, you're paying attention all through the fall. But we also don't have baseball going smack up against Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then eventually the Iditarod.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing about so many people are local fans ties back into the whole idea of do the geographic realignment, and you're playing, you're not traveling. Now, the one thing I will say is I do appreciate MLB's effort starting this year to have teams play each other more often so that you get a chance on like some sort of regular schedule to see every team in your team stadium.
Great.
So, I do appreciate that. Yeah. But
Congrats.
I mean, your idea, like geographic thing, East Coast teams playing East Coast teams, West Coast teams playing West Coast teams. I mean, we're recording this right before the Braves take on the Dodgers in LA. That game starts at 10 p.m. Atlanta time.
Yeah.
That is not how you grow the game of baseball. There are not kids staying up to watch that game.
I have another thing to say on that, but think about, down the stretch, why can't the Yankees and Mets be head-to-head in a pennant race? Well, because back in 1901, Ban Johnson created a league that went against da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's why? Because, they wanted to compete against the National League, and so they put a team called the Highlanders. No. That happened 120 years ago. And some of sports has evolved since then. I have another kind of radical thing that could be different. And I'm going to say something that I may find myself vomiting in my mouth briefly. I kind of see the wisdom in something that Bud Selig tried.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That was hard to get
now,
out.
He did it wrong. No surprise.
Breaking.
But there is something behind what he was thinking that may work now. It did not work when he did it, but now may be the time to do it. And you talk about the start time has something to do with it. Now, think about this for a second. What is the single most exciting event in the regular season? Is that final day of the season, especially if there's a lot of games, a lot of teams. Like last year, you had 4 potential teams trying to squeeze into 2 spots of the American League in the playoffs. So all the games started at the same time. And so there's a lot of excitement going on there. In 1995, Selig experimented with something of starting all the playoff games at the same time. And so they were all happening simultaneously. Now, it was a disaster because people wanted to watch their team. And of course, all the coverage was regional. So they picked, you have no choice but to watch this game that we're playing right now. That was a catastrophe. But think about this. What if all the playoff games were played at the same primetime spot? So it wasn't like, if you were Cleveland or if you were the White Sox, you get hosed with a 1 o'clock in the afternoon start.
On a school day.
Okay. Now, I happen to like being at work or teach and being able to check, hey, who's winning that game? But you get hosed if you're a fan of that team.
Yeah.
So what if we have enough platforms, we have enough places to put it? What if we say, and don't talk to me about Nielsen ratings. Nielsen ratings are mean nothing. Nobody sits down and watches a television anymore. Okay? They watch things on their device. Right. So what if all the games, the playoff games, were primetime? You have 4 division series games going on at once, and you can flip back and forth between them, or you can do picture in picture.
I was about to say you can do a quad box and just watch all 4 at the same time. We have the technology.
Yeah, and you can watch it you can have it. You can, if you just want to watch yours, if you want to quad box it, if they want to kind of red zone it and say we're going to cut back over here in Houston, there, they runners on second and third in back and forth, do it like the MLB Tonight style, whatever you want. There's so many ways to do it, and the notion of we're having these games played, we're staggering the start times. Why? Why do that? Imagine if you have one game in with a walk-off home run, you flip over to another game ends with a walk-off home run. And they all start at a reasonable time. So it's not like, oh man, it's 10th. Like there was one year where the A's played Boston, and the way it was staggered that it started at 7 p.m. Oakland time. So it was 10 p.m. in Boston. Who the hell is watching the game at 10 o'clock at night on a school day?
Not
So
kids.
let's realign it so we take advantage of the geographical rivalries that are natural and just sitting there, and start all the playoff games in prime time. Who loses? Who loses that?
Very, very few people. So you have fixed baseball.
Because I'm an encyclopedia.
You're an encyclopedia. If listeners of Locked On MLB Prospects want to vote for you for commissioner, how can
Please.
where can they go to get more information about your platform and follow you and what you're doing?
Okay. And by the way, I'm going to post, when I used to do my old podcast, which was called Sully Baseball Daily, and I did 1,600 consecutive days with a brand new show every single day, including one day I was in the hospital. I recorded from my hospital bed. That's how I roll. On my 1000th episode, I talked about why I should be the commissioner of baseball, and I made my pitch for that. That was back in 2015. I did that. So I'll post the video of that podcast that I did, because it was a lot of fun doing that show. But follow me if you're watching this on the YouTubes. You can see that I have my Twitter handle. Sorry, I just hit the mic. I check Twitter a lot at Sully Baseball. I also have an Instagram account, which is at Sully Baseball Podcast. I don't check that as often, but I do from time to time. I have a YouTube channel, which is LockedOn MLB. That's the name of the show. And just look up LockedOn MLB wherever you get your podcasts. And also check my YouTube. I have another Sully Baseball on YouTube. If you check out, every year I do an in memoriam video for those who we have lost. And this year was an interesting one because there were no Hall of Famers. There were no undeniable legends, but I still tried my best to pull your heartstrings. The one last year was kind of an epic because it had 9 Hall of Famers in it and my dad. So that was kind of if I was really, and Chadwick Boseman and Dick Allen and Dr. Bobby Brown. Wow. I mean, it was normally you try to end with a Hall of Famer, and that last year we had Tom Seaver, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Don Sutton, Tom Lasorda, Phil Niekro, Whitey Ford, Joe Morgan, and Henry Aaron.
Yeah.
And
tough year.
That was that one was longer because I didn't want to rush through Joe Morgan. But yeah, I do that every year. I used to do it at the All-Star game, but starting with the COVID season, I moved it to opening day. And it becomes this weird rush that I try to get it posted before first pitch. That was sometimes sometimes it gets right to the wire. It's like it's seated Raiders of the Lost Ark where the door was coming down. He rolls under, then grabs his whip. That's me trying to hit that deadline.
Nice. And if folks from Locked On MLB want to listen to my show, you can find Locked On MLB Prospects wherever you get your podcasts. I have a YouTube page as well for Locked On MLB Prospects. I am on Twitter at Crosby Baseball, and the show is on Twitter at Locked On Farm.
Hey, this was fun, man. This was fun. You and I planned exactly nothing.
Yeah, we literally went into this and said we're just going to talk for 45 minutes and see how it goes. I think it was great, Sully.
By the way, if you like my hair, if you see the movie Barton Fink, I modeled it after that. Maybe Eraserhead. How many midnight movies am I going to reference in one podcast?
If you are not watching this on YouTube, you really have missed out, and you really should subscribe to Locked On MLB Prospects and Locked On MLB on YouTube, because this has been a quite entertaining visual show as well. Sully, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay.